Okay, so you just pulled an incredibly rare card, or you went through an old binder and found something super nostalgic, or just realized you had a ton of Pokemon cards that could possibly be worth something. So now you're thinking, should I grade my Pokemon cards? And that is a great question. It's a question that a ton of people ask, a question I myself have asked on various occasions, and that is why you have clicked on this video. Well, worry not, because here at What's Popping, we have teamed up with Graded here in South Africa to discuss all things Pokemon and just in general TCG grading. So we're going to go over to the studio with Steven, chat about grading in South Africa, chat about grading when you are outside of the US and you don't have those same touch points with companies like PSA, CGC, BGS, all those big companies out there. You're not quite sure who to approach, what company to use, how to select a card, what goes into submission. That is what this series is all about. So stay tuned, enjoy it, and let's head over to Steven at the Graded Cave.
Steven, thank you so much for having us. It is awesome to be here. We've wanted to do this for a long time to chat about grading cards. First off, why should people be grading their cards? I know it's a tough question. We asked it on Pokemon group all the time. People ask me. I came to the source. I want to know, why do we grade cards?
It's quite a vague answer because it's up to so many different factors. Some people do it just purely for sentimentality. If they've got a card that they played with back in 2006 that won them regional, maybe they want to remember it, take it out of the binder and just see it every day. They could grade it for those reasons. But the most common one we get is for value increase. I think there's a lot of shows out there, a lot of YouTubers, Logan Pauls, they're out there telling people how to increase the value. And it's true to a certain degree. There are some cards that literally leapfrog in value once graded.
I mean, obviously they're like authenticating cards as well. So there's a lot of fakes out there. You could be at a flea market, you find what you think is an amazing steal. You find a shadowless Charizard from somebody's binder, and you're like, well, let's send this through and see if it's actually real. Yeah,
I mean, the most common one we get is those little Chinese-made gold cards. Yeah. A lot of people think they're sitting on a fortune of gold. Yeah. And they want to grade them, because you can grade metal cards, they do exist. Pokemon has made them and released them, and you can grade them. But yeah, those are the most commonly fake ones. But another reason to authenticate is if you've got quite an expensive card that has seen a little bit of play, maybe you don't want to have that 5 on the PSA label, and you just want to have authentic.
Yes.
The same with a signature from a voice actor.
Yeah, I was going to say, we just recently had Veronica Taylor out here, so a lot of cards in South Africa floating around with their signature on them.
Some people like the signature graded as well as the card, and other people like just getting it authenticated. Yeah. And the same with the card. Yeah. I got a lot of Bandai cards for her to sign because they're beautiful and they have Ash Ketchum. Yeah. Not a lot of Ash Ketchums on Pokemon cards.
No, definitely not.
So brought those over, but they're super glossy and they get scratched easily. So I didn't want to have a 5 or 3. Yeah. I just want to know that it's an authentic card and that the signature is also authentic.
Yeah, no, of course, and I mean it's such a difficult issue to a lot of people out there. It's a wonderful community, the cardhead community, but there are those toxic elements, and I think especially if you're on the secondary market, you have a lot more confidence when you're buying off something like eBay that you know, even if the buyer you don't know, that you see, okay, this is a PSA authenticated card. I know I'm getting a real card.
Yeah, especially when you're spending $2,000 on a card on eBay, you don't know the seller, you can't go and visit and see it in person. Having it in that slab that a secondary grading company has looked at it and said this thing's authentic, you can spend your money a little bit easier.
Yeah. So I mean that's really sort of, I think, sums up a lot of grading in essence. So it's a case of, maybe I've got an old card that I love and it's really sentimental. So I know it's not a value thing, but I don't like it sitting in my binder. I want to put it on my desk. I want to have it in a great slab that's really visible. The value one I think is a bit of a tricky one, because you can play this weird game where like the card can skyrocket in value if it's a 10, but if it's a lower grade, you might as well either have not got it graded or just kept it raw.
Yeah, there's a bit of a formula you got to play around with. There's the value of it being raw. Yeah. So let's say you got a $100 card, that's its raw price, and you're going to grade it. Overseas, it's a little bit cheaper. Here in South Africa, we've got the shipping cost, the customs when it returns back. So it's a little bit more expensive here, but you take that cost into effect, let's say roughly around 600 Rand. Yeah. So now you're putting your $100 plus your 600 Rand. You've got to make sure that if it's coming back in a 9 or a 10, which you're hoping for, it's going to be worthwhile. Yeah. So normally the 10 is like, you're on the money every time. So the population reports and the debate on that, well, maybe not the debate, it just seems like there's some confusion around it, where yes, you might have a PSA 1 Charizard and is like a pop 13.
Yeah.
But that's because you're the only one who's bent it in half and sent it in.
No, exactly. And then you got the Moonbryon, which is got a pop of 13,000 copies out there, and
so that's obviously a popular card.
Yeah.
Same with the Pikachu with the felt hat. That's
a beauty.
That's sitting on like 40,000 copies now on a PSA 10.
That's all big.
Yeah. But then you look at, let's say, you can use that Pikachu as an example. On that end of the scale, you do have a very rare card if it grades as a BGS 10. So you've got all these like 40,000 PSA 10s worth 220 days. The BGS 10, there's only 45 in the world at the moment. It's slowly climbing, but not at the rate.
Not the rest of the PSAs are.
So don't fall prey and there's eBay clickbait.
Yeah.
You see like, oh, it's a pop, it's a PSA 4 Umbreon from Dark Explorers.
Yeah.
It's the only one submitted.
Yeah. I mean, I could submit a common Ditto from 151 that nobody thought to submit, and suddenly I'm sitting on pop 1. And hey, if that's what floats your boat, then do it. But that's the cool thing, is that I think there's so many reasons to grade and so many things. You might be that person who wants to have the only one, or
all the pop ones
that exist. You go and find whatever sets are out there, and you say, hey, I want pop 1s.
No one submitted this energy card.
It's done. And then obviously there's cool things like miscuts as well, which I know a lot of the companies look at. So we're seeing more and more, everyone complains about Pokemon's quality control more and more. It's going to the opposite spectrum now, where people are complaining about, people initially complained, I can't get 10s. Now people are hunting miscut cards. I saw in the group the other day, somebody pulled one of the groups, somebody pulled a Pheasant Diffy and a Monkey Dory that are basically can cut across each other.
Yeah,
and
they sent it, we graded it came back with CGC, and it looks great in the slab. It looks really comical, but interesting. It's nice to have just capturing the moment of this bizarre thing that's happened in the print run with these cards. And so it is something unique, right?
It is, it's very unique.
That's what a lot of collecting's about.
Exactly, it's that uniqueness, and I think every collector's got their own style, and they're very aware of their own style. But if somebody comes to you and they say, look, Stephen, I'm coming out of nowhere, I have these cards to submit, what advice do you give to someone who's not grading for sentimentality?
It happens on a regular basis. I've always offered my advice for free because I feel like I'm not fully qualified to give it. I've only been in the game for 5 years and I just enjoy it, and now we have graded a lot of cards, so I do have some level of knowledge on it, but I'm not an investment.
Not an investment. This is not official financial advice. We're not an accredited financial institution here on What's Popping. This is very much a friendly
my
advice.
opinion is that anything modern has got to be in perfect shape. And there are 4 elements to look at, maybe 5 if you send it to PSA. They do look at overall eye appeal. So even though it might have a little bit of damage somewhere,
that sounds heck of objective.
That's
subjective. That's very subjective.
Yeah. But I think they keep it in their back pocket just to say, you know what, there is a little bit of damage there. We're still going to give it a 10 because it's not affecting the overall beauty of the card. Because they're trying to hold on to that and say, you know what, we put out these 4 things that are objective, and we'll cover that just now, but ultimately it is about aesthetics. And so they look at those things, which is kind of good. Now the objective side of it is there's 4 subcategories that they look at, which is the centering, and that is quite a tricky one. I think I could give a lecture on it because it confuses a lot of people. You'll see a BGS Black Label 10 with all subcategories 10s. But the card will be off center. And you've got to ask yourself, like, how is that possible? It's supposed to be perfect. But they've got a ratio that they look at. So they say a 10 is within this ratio, and it's not 50-50. It doesn't have to be 50 on one side, 50 on the other. It could be, I think it's 60-40.
I've seen the number thrown around.
And that's a 10. Right? Some of the grading companies go for 55-45. So there are some leniencies across the 3 big ones, 3 big grading companies. So that's on centering, and then there's also a difference in how they look at centering from the front to the back. So the front might be 45-55, but the back would be 70-30.
Because that obviously also then leads into eye appeal. I mean, the cards may only be displayed in the front, and how much are you looking at the back of the card?
Some backs of cards are more beautiful. But
some of those Ben Charizards, the back looks pretty good sometimes.
So that's centering. You've got to keep your eye on it. There's centering tools that you can use that do help. Especially when it's such a fine margin. The other 3 are the surface. So the surface is scratches. And we often get cards sent to us, they think it's going to be a 10. you capture it in the right light and you notice hundreds of little minute scratches on it. I have to take a picture and send it back to them and say, are you sure?
Especially those vintage
I still want to
hollows.
send it because I've noticed something. The textured ones seem to do better with that sort of stuff. So the older reverse hollows from Expedition, those scratch so easily, which is why they're such a low pop.
So even I would imagine like a lot of the new illustration arrays, I think they also fall in that category of
just a lot of hollow across the whole
cover. I'm thinking of that new Infernape that came out in Sharp Fable or
and this Magikarp that's got
that Magikarp, that's got everyone running around. So those
I think we've submitted about 20 now, and none have come back. Even with TSA. Then you got edges and corners. So people think they're more or less the same thing, but they're not. Edges are all the way around the card, and yes, the corners are on the edges, but the corners, what they're looking for there is how it's cut. If it's supposed to be round, if it's supposed to be sharp, how close is it to be perfect? You get a lot of cards that look like they've been cut by a child first time using scissors, and others are just perfectly smooth. So that's what they're looking for in the corners. Sometimes you get some lifting. It's basically like a cookie cutter machine that's lifting up, and if they're dull or they've been highly overused, and they get hot, they can pull on the card and it leaves a sort of little cookie mold. And then the edges, you've seen it on lots of cards. The edging, the little white spots. Sometimes they can be packed fresh and have those white marks.
Yeah, that's a common misconception. Is pack fresh does not mean 10. People think pack fresh means 10. Pack fresh can be an 8.
I pulled this myself, put it in a sleeve, sent it over. Like it will get a 10. Most likely it won't. Even though it looks awesome, you might not get your money back. Doesn't mean you shouldn't grade it. I've got a lot of Dragon Ball that are not worth the grading fee, but I love looking at them.
The thing as well is that like as card collectors we're all gamblers anyway, so it's just adding another layer of gambling to what we're already doing half the time anyways. So I think another point you started to touch on there, which is so important, is they're not just selecting the right card, but selecting the right company for what you want to get graded. So I know the big ones that you guys deal with are CGC, PSA, and BGS. Can you maybe outline some of the differences between why you might select one of those companies over another one when you're thinking about grading your card?
Okay. The first one shouldn't matter too much, but there is a price difference. And I'll get to why it shouldn't matter, because there's much better reasons to choose. But CGC is the cheapest, PSA is the next, and BGS above that. BGS has got a cheaper option that puts it more in line with CGC, and that's without the subgrade. But if you want the black label, you've got to go subgrade. So we only offer that service. Because now leads me on to my next point: why you choose a different grading company. CGC used to do subgrades.
Yes, they just got rid of those. People are criticizing them for getting rid of those subgrades.
Yeah, it's a weird one for me. They changed the look and feel of their label and the quality of the slab itself. They did a lot right, and I'm not so sure why they got rid of the subgrades, because it was something that gave them an extra edge. I think they just wanted to be more uniform. Something like that.
Because I mean, aesthetically to me it doesn't make a difference. And for anyone out there who's wondering what subgrades are, those are literally those categories, right? That you mentioned, those 4 sort of categories.
They mark them out of 10. So it's the centering, surface, edges, and corners, and it literally shows it on the label. So when you get it back, you can see, the surface was the one that brought it down to a 9.5.
Because I've got cards that I bought with, like I said, off eBay. In auctions, and I tried to snipe a few auctions, and I was happy to score a 9, and I got the cards, and I can't see what they're on. It's very frustrating looking at a 9.
Because once it's in the slab, it's harder to see. So I've got a PSA 9 Charizard out there that I've just
looking beautiful. You think, do I crack it or do I?
I've had it for 5 years, and every day I look at it and think, should I send it back?
I can send it back.
I don't see anything wrong with that thing.
So I mean, the subgrades are great, not just for having that added, if we're on BGS, not just having that added possibility of getting a black value, but getting that knowledge and being like, okay, you didn't give me a 10 because of this. I think that gives.
And then you can maybe look at it in depth and go, okay, there, I can see it now.
Yes.
And if you still can't see it, then you can maybe crack it out and send it back and see if you can.
So,
look, PSA for me is like the go-to if you feel like there's slight damage here,
a little bit of leeway that you need. It's a little bit of
center, it's got a little white spot. You send it to PSA, you might get that 10. And it's industry standard. It's a lot of people collect only one type of slab, and a lot of those people are PSA collectors. So you've got a bigger marketplace to sell to. If you've got a BGS 10, you'll find you're only selling to a handful of people.
And CGC, would you say, is smaller than
And
EGS?
CGC, because it's cheaper, and it's still got that chance of a pristine 10.
It's true.
It's a beautiful slab.
Yeah.
It's definitely the best looking, best feeling slab out of the three. The other two they do have a bit of an old feel to them.
Yeah.
And the CGC is just clean and crisp and beautiful, right? So there's that reason. But then this pristine 10, for me, it's a nice way to see. I'm not sure if this is going to get a black label. Let me send it to CGC. Let me send these 20 cards to CGC. Comes back with 5 pristines. Now you can look at them and say, are any of them worth sending to BGS? For me, is the only reason I send to CGC. Other people only send to CGC because they've got their entire collections in CGC. They don't want a PSA slab popping up and ruining
the aesthetic of everything. My biggest issue with grading in the past, and when people ask me about grading, I say go to graded, because for me, I've always been very intimidated by the whole process. How do you as graded sort of speak to people and say, look, this is the process we follow. Obviously, you take all that hassle out of the process for us, which is for me one of the biggest things in terms of getting stuff graded. It's worth that extra little bit to go ahead and get your cards graded. So what is kind of your process, and how do you make it so much easier for us as opposed to somebody who's going to try and grade something by themselves?
I suppose what we offer is we're a middleman service that helps you grade your cards. And that help comes from the experience of making all those mistakes ourselves. So we didn't just start off with graded, we graded a lot of cards with friends. We got together, we figured it all out. How does it work? What are the loopholes that we're going to get through from being all the way over here in South Africa? And we made those mistakes with our own cards.
I can see a lot of pain behind that. There's a lot of
there was some
behind
postal
that.
service mayhem that went on.
For those listening and not seeing, I can see the light draining from your eyes. And you
It was a
mentioned
bad
that
pass.
it was a bad.
But we got over this hurdle. We figured out how to not have cards come back through our South African postal service. That was the big one.
Yeah.
Getting it back with and paying the correct customs and not paying this exorbitant amount on these highly valuable cards coming back. So that was a big, if we couldn't get that right, we wouldn't have this company. It wouldn't exist. It wouldn't be a good service to offer. But we got through all those hurdles, and we don't expect anybody else. We don't want anybody else to go through those. When you group together, the shipping becomes cheaper. You split it up amongst everyone. The insurance, when the cards come back, they're fully insured. So those sort of things are so important now. When I look back on those drain and thinking how risky it was. So that is what we do.
So a lot of lessons learned. You can't buy experience, and thankfully we don't have to, because we can send our cards to you. So if somebody's wanting to submit cards to Graded, what is the process they go through to get those cards to you and to get them to you in the best possible condition?
Speak to us. We are on WhatsApp. You can send us high definition pictures on a black background, please.
Black background, very important.
Just so you can pick out those indiscretions of the card. But ask as many people as you can. Walk around the house with it in your hand.
Different lights.
Different lighting. Check it in different rooms. It is an expensive thing to do. You don't send something that you may be making a mistake on because you didn't take a little bit of time. So that's step number one. Take some time, think about it, look at it in many different ways. Then now you've got the card. You're dead set. This is the card.
This is the one. I've got the Giratina Alt Art worth 10k. I'm sending it to Stephen. Okay. What do I do?
So first step, go on the site. We've got it's an online store. You can add the card's details. So it's got everything. It's got questions for you to fill out. It takes about a minute. If you know the card, if you've got it in front of you, just typing in the number, the set, the year, the name of the card. And then it's got a section down below for description. So if there's something wrong with the card, maybe it's an error card, let us know. Because sometimes it's hard to tell. And if there's 200 cards I've got to get through, I might miss it. So that description is quite important. Maybe it's Pokemon's pretty straightforward, but you get some Yu-Gi-Oh cards that have been reprinted 100 times.
Dark Magician.
And there's so many different versions of the cards. So letting us know that this is a judge copy from this era, that's quite important. Okay, so now you've loaded the card on the site.
All the notes are there.
You can go check out, and it'll give you some options for shipping. Because you've got to now send the card to us, that's on your expense. But when it comes back to us, how do you want it to come back? Do you want to come collect it? Do you want to collect from Joburg or Cape Town? Do you want us to postnet it or courier guide, Kuda? to door to locker. So
all those options are available.
They're all there. It's a checklist for you to choose from, and it updates your cart total. You do one payment. So the shipping, the customs, the grading fee, and the shipping on return. It's all calculated there. So it's just one payment. The only time you'll do an extra payment is for PSA. They do upcharges if you send a very expensive card.
When you get that Moonbury on 10,
they do upcharge because we submit as a bulk, and I think it's up to 200, but they're pretty lenient on that. So anything around the $500 mark, they might upcharge, and it's a small amount, like $10. But it's for insurance. They're going to send this back to us. The initial charge that we charge everybody here is for a low value card. Now it's a high value slab.
Now it's a really high value slab.
Because you've got the 10. If we've got a 9, they might not upcharge. But because it's a 10, high value, you're going to get upcharged. And it literally happens maybe 5 or 6 times per submission. It's only for the high end stuff. We get a lot of 10s. We get a lot of, even a Rainbow Zard in a 10 from Brilliant Stars. It's an amazing card to get. It's not going to get upcharged. You're talking about your Moon Browns, your Deoxys Gold Stars,
your Tinas,
Mario Pikachu's, like those get some pretty hefty upcharges on. And it makes sense. You want to make sure it's insured.
Of course. The $10 are all worth it.
Shut down. Touching wood.
Touching wood, no.
Now you've got to send us the card. We have received some pretty comical packages. I'm not going to name names. I've forgotten who they were, but geez, there's some interesting packages.
But it's very, very kind of you to say
Literally
that.
just in a newspaper, like rolled up.
Wow.
What works really well is a top loader or a card setters. So those are great, but you don't have to have the acrylic product. You can make one out of cardboard, corrugated cardboard, just cut it slightly bigger than your card in a sleeve, place it down, another one on top, sandwich it. You can elastic tape it around or just have tape it up. Don't send it like that. Then you can bubble wrap it. If you don't have bubble wrap, use tissue or newspaper, just crumple it up and then put it in a box. So it can be a tin, Pokemon ETB, or just any sort of take-out box that you've got recently. And then that is pretty secure.
That's it. And then
you can drop it off in person, you can Pudo it, or you can post it. Because we've only got the big 3 that we send to, we used to send to AGS. It was a robotic AI-based grading company, very similar to CGC. We don't send to them anymore because the demand is not as CGC, and CGC are actually cheaper. End of the month. It's always the end of the month is deadline.
So obviously on that cycle, right? So we've got PSA, BGS, CGC, and that's what we're cycling through. So what's that? 4 submissions a year?
4 submissions to each grading company per year. So we've got our socials, Instagram, Facebook, and the WhatsApp group. The WhatsApp group is not a shop, like a lot of the other WhatsApp groups.
They do tend to devolve into people selling stuff.
We try and keep any sort of sales up there, even our own. We might say, we're doing a wheel spin because we do a little bit of rip and shipping as well with bounties that give people free grading. So we might advertise that. We might advertise that there's a whole bunch of graded cards that we put up on the website, but we don't talk about selling stuff often. It's more for people just to talk about hits that they got and whether they should grade something. It is, you can post a picture of your card and say, guys, what do you think of this? Or post a picture of your binder or a video. Say, what have I got in here?
Anything good. But I love that. I think that's a great sort of jump off point to say it's a group of people grading together.
There's a lot of experts on it. There's some guys who only get 10th. JP, if you're listening to this, you're like, God. God amongst
the high for 10s. The high for 10s. Well, hopefully people will jump in and sort of get on and get addicted and start. I think once you start submitting, it does add that extra fun layer of collecting.
Yeah, because it takes 3 months, sometimes less. During COVID, it was way more. It was like 6 months for BGS. Just because there was a lot of people.
So many submissions. It was during that. It was that Pokemon boom. It was.
But now it seems to have stabilized. Like 2 to 3 months. We just had a CGC submission come back with, I think it was a month and 2 weeks. Wow. It was the quickest we've ever had it.
That's insane. And that's back to submitted from here to CGC and back. That is insane. That is incredible. 3 months. It does take a while. So if you are submitting every submission, it kind of takes away that waiting time. Yeah, it does, because you always. Even if you've got like one card, you just send one card. You'll know that like your
you'll just start feeling like, oh, that didn't take long at all. It's like, oh, there's another one.
Yeah. And you can't, it's like opening your card again, especially if you've got a nice big
Some
chase.
people do say that.
It's like,
They're like, oh my god, this card. I like this one.
What about this?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people see the leap into grading their first card as quite a big one.
Yeah.
You've got to go onto the site, you've got to enter in all these details one at a time, add them to cart, check out. It's a lot of steps.
Yeah.
And so you get a lot of people saying, hey, here's 10 cards, just put it up on the site. I'm like, no. One, I'm not going to do that because then I'd have to do it for everyone.
Yeah.
But that's not the main reason. The main reason is people do forget about their cards.
Yeah.
What they sent. And for us, that's a way of keeping track. Because obviously, this is a business where you're dealing with people's valuables.
Yes.
And they are extremely valuable.
And a lot of them,
not just in
exactly. There's a lot of sentimental value behind a lot of people's
So we don't want to make a mistake with people's valuables. So that's why we've set it up this way, is to keep track. We've got, it literally goes from the website onto an Excel spreadsheet. It follows an order. So if you send 10 cards, your 10 cards are in that order. If I send 10 cards, they go directly underneath yours. And the next person, the next person. When we get it back from PSL CGC, they are in that exact order. So that we know if you sent in a Pikachu fault hat and I sent in a Pikachu, it's literally one after the other. And they have certain numbers. We haven't talked about sequential.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm about to say, so if you're somebody who's got, you pull the guard pack of Pokemon 151 and you've got a Charmander, Charmeleon and a Zardy, you think they're all going to get 10s. You want them sequential. Is that something that you guys can...
There is a huge value add to that. You'll see it on eBay. Again, it's a smaller buyer's market, so they don't sell as often. But there's a huge premium for sequentially graded cards, just because how difficult it is. You can imagine you're opening up 200 boxes, some big YouTuber that's opening up all these things, and now you've got 20 Charizards and 20 Charmeleons and 20 Charmeleons. Now you send them all in. How many of them are going to be sequential? Hardly any. So to get that sequential is rare, and it does have a premium. So when you send them in and you got them in a weird order, I might just WhatsApp you back and say, listen, you sure you don't want to do it like this? This is going to be great. And that's exactly, so it goes back to knowing what's your card. Because people are concerned, I get that question all the time.
How do I know I'm getting my card back?
Because it's going to have that certain number right next to the other person.
Exactly.
Or your
Stephen, thank you so much for this intro episode into grading. I think it's been very incredibly insightful. I think people are going to be excited. People are excited about grading, especially here in South Africa. We're seeing it grow more and more. You're seeing it grow more and more. I think what you guys are offering is an incredible service that is really helping them getting into grading and sort of explore an entirely new section of their collecting, which is exciting for the community as a whole. So thank you for everything you guys are doing here at Graded. We're going to have a look at some cards now, but that's going to come up in a future episode. So hang around for that. We will be actually going through the process of selecting a card to go to a specific company. So I'll be the client that we just spoke about now, and that'll be the next episode of our series. So hang around for that. If you haven't already, make sure you've checked out all of Graded socials. They are in the description down below. And if you wouldn't mind and you're still around here, you've made it through a very long video, and you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button as well to join us over here in the What's Popping community. And we will see you in the next episode.